Long ago, family did not end with parents and children. Living together was simply how life worked. If you are listening at night, tell me where you are and what time it is. Settle in for a while. There is no hurry here. The day can be allowed to loosen its grip. The room can grow quieter. Breathing becomes slower, softer, like the sound of cloth folding on itself. This is a gentle hour, meant for noticing small things without needing to remember them later. Tonight, we drift back into a time that moves at a different pace, where lives unfold without clocks, and evenings arrive simply because the light has grown tired. Imagine a medieval village resting. In low ground, the earth's dark and familiar underfoot. Smoke lifts slowly from hearths, not rushing anywhere. The houses are close to one another, not out of crowding, but out of habit. Families live together here, not just parents and children, but grandparents, cousins, and others whose exact relation has softened over time. Everyone knows where they belong, mostly because they have always been there. Inside one of these homes, the walls are thick and uneven. Light enters in a patient way through a small opening, settling on wood, clay, and hill. Wool. The family is gathered, though no one has announced it. They simply are. A child sits near the floor, tracing the edge of a stone with a finger. An older woman works with thread, her hands moving from memory rather than thought. A man rests after the day's labor, his breathing steady, his presence quiet. No one performs. No one explains. They share the same air, the same warmth, the same silence. Medieval families live together because it makes sense. Life requires many hands, and hands are easier to find when they belong to people who already share your space. The household is not a private retreat. It is a working unit, a place where sleeping, eating, repairing, and waiting all happen in the same room. Privacy is not expected. Familiarity replaces it. Morning arrives gently. Someone stirs. Someone else notices. The fire is coaxed back to life, not with urgency, but with patience learned over many mornings, just like this one. Children wake when the room wakes. Elders wake when their bodies decide it is time. The family moves around one another with quiet awareness, avoiding collisions without thinking about it. This has been practiced for years. Food is simple and shared. A pot simmers slowly, its contents unremarkable and reliable. Everyone eats from what is available. Portions are not counted with precision, but with custom. The youngest are watched. The eldest are respected. No one is truly alone at the table, even if they are not speaking. Work begins without announcement. Some tasks belong to the field, others to the house. Older children learn by watching, then by doing, then by doing, without being told. Knowledge is passed gently, like a hand placed on a shoulder to guide direction rather than force it. Mistakes happen. They are absorbed into the day. In these families, time is measured differently. There is the time of planting and the time of harvest. There is the time of light and the time of dark. There is the time when someone is born, and much later, the time when someone is not there anymore. Between these moments stretches a long, even fabric of ordinary days. Illness is part of the household, as natural as weather. When someone feels weak, the family adjusts around them. The fire is kept warmer. The work is redistributed. Worry exists, but it moves slowly, carried quietly from person to person. There is no expectation of control, only of care. Children grow up surrounded by these rhythms. They sleep near adults, waking to familiar sounds. They learn the texture of voices long before the meaning of words. Stories are told in pieces, often repeated, sometimes unfinished. A tale might drift off when the fire burns low, to be picked up another night, or not at all. The home itself holds memory, marks on the table from countless meals, a beam darkened by years of smoke. A corner where someone once sat every evening, now empty but still noticed. The family does not speak of these things often. They simply live among them. At night, the household gathers again, drawn inward by darkness. The door is closed, not against the world, but against the wind. Everyone settles where there is space. The room is full of small sounds, breathing, fabric shifting, the fire settling into embers. Outside, the village rests in a similar way, each family enclosed in its own quiet circle. Medieval families do not think of their lives as historical. They are not aware of being observed from a distant future. They are only aware of the next task, the next meal, the next sunrise. Their togetherness is not sentimental. It is practical, steady, and deeply ordinary. And yet, in that ordinariness, there is comfort. The comfort of shared presence. The comfort of knowing who will be near you when the light fades. The comfort of routines that do not ask to be understood. As the night deepens, thoughts soften. The family sleeps together, wrapped in the same air, the same slow passing of time. Tomorrow will come when it comes. There is no need to hurry it. For now, the house rests. The people rest. History, for this moment, is very quiet. The night passes without comment. Darkness thins slowly, almost politely, until the room begins to recognize itself again. Shapes return. The beam overhead, the edge of the hearth, the quiet outline of bodies still resting. Someone wakes before the others, not because of a plan, but because sleep has gently finished with them. They lie still for a moment, listening. The house breathes. In medieval family homes, waking is rarely sudden. There is no sharp division between sleeping and being awake. Eyes open, thoughts drift. A child turns over and settles again. An elder coughs softly, a familiar sound that no longer carries alarm. Eventually, someone moves toward the fire. The day begins without announcement. The family remains together as the morning unfolds. A young person fetches water. Another tends to animals nearby. An older member stays inside, repairing something small and worn. Everyone contributes in a way that feels natural to them. There is no written schedule. Memory and habit guide each step. Children are never far from adults. They watch hands work. They hear conversations meant for no audience. They learn not through lessons, but through presence. A daughter learns how to prepare grain because she has seen it done 1,000 times. A son learns how to shape wood by standing quietly nearby, absorbing movements that repeat day after day. The family does not separate sharply by age. Grandparents share space with infants. Teenagers sit beside elders, listening without being asked to respond. Advice is given casually, sometimes ignored, sometimes remembered later. Knowledge drifts through the household like smoke, settling where it will. Meals return again and again, anchoring the day. Not elaborate, not rushed. The same bowl, the same spoon, the same place by the fire. Eating together is not a special event. It is simply how nourishment happens. Silence is allowed. Conversation wanders. Someone mentions the weather, or a neighbor, or nothing at all. Work continues through the hours of light. Fields, animals, tools, cloth, bread. Each task repeats itself across seasons, across generations. There is comfort in this repetition. When something breaks, it is repaired if possible, reused if not, remembered if neither works. Waste is rare. Familiarity is common. Inside the home, objects carry quiet stories. A chest passed down through hands now gone. A knife sharpened so many times it has become thin. A blanket patched carefully, its original color only faintly visible. These items are not admired. They are used. Their value lies in how well they continue to serve. When conflict arises, as it sometimes does, it stays close to the ground. Arguments are practical, brief, often resolved through fatigue rather than victory. People cannot afford long silences. In such close quarters, living together requires compromise, even if it is never named as such. Illness, aging, and death are present, but not hidden. When someone grows weak, they remain part of the household. They are fed, spoken to, included until they are not able, and then included in other ways. Children witness this without explanation. They learn that life changes shape over time, as afternoon light stretches and then begins to lower. The family slowly draws inward again. Tasks are finished or left unfinished. There is no sense of falling behind. Tomorrow exists, and it will accept whatever remains. Evening brings a familiar gathering. The fire is rebuilt. Shadows grow longer on the walls. Someone tells a story they have told before, perhaps changing a detail without noticing. Another listens with half attention, mind drifting, body relaxed. A child dozes where they sit, gently sliding into sleep. The household grows quieter, not because anyone demands it, but because the day has gently worn itself out. Outside, the village settles into the same rhythm. Sounds fade one by one. A distant voice, a closing door, the soft movement of animals. In these moments, medieval families share something unspoken, a sense of continuity, a feeling that today resembles yesterday closely enough to feel safe. The world beyond the village may be uncertain, but within these walls there is steadiness. Night returns. Bodies arrange themselves where there is room. Blankets are shared. Warmth is redistributed without words. The fire dims, still present, still reliable. Sleep comes unevenly. Some drift quickly. Others lie awake, listening to breathing, to wood settling, to the quiet assurance of not being alone. Thoughts wander without pressure to resolve. And so the household rests again, held together by shared space, shared labor, shared time. History moves forward without announcing itself. The family remains, for now, exactly where it has always been. The night holds them gently, and the hours pass without asking anything in return. The fire does not go out completely. It never does. It settles into a quiet red glow, enough to remind the room that warmth is still nearby. Someone wakes briefly in the night, adjusts a blanket, then drifts back again. No one remarks on it in the morning. These moments belong to the dark. As hours pass, the house remains still, yet never entirely silent. Wood contracts. The wind brushes the roof. An animal shifts outside. These sounds are familiar, so familiar that they no longer interrupt rest. They are part of the household in the same way the walls are. Toward morning, the cycle begins again, almost imperceptibly. Light returns slowly, easing into the room without urgency. The family stirs, not all at once, but in waves. One person sits up, another sighs and turns. The day reassembles itself piece by piece. Life in medieval families continues this way, not marked by great changes from one day to the next, but by small variations within a steady frame. One day the bread is darker, another day the air feels heavier. A child grows a little taller, an elder moves a little slower. These things are noticed, then accepted. The household adjusts constantly without naming the adjustment. If someone is missing at the table, a space opens without comment. If someone new is present, they are absorbed into the rhythm as if they had always been there. The family expands and contracts over time, like breathing. Seasons pass through the home. In colder months, everyone draws closer. The fire becomes more central. Tasks move inward. Stories linger longer. In warmer months, doors stay open. The household spills into the yard, into the fields, then gathers again when the light fades. Children grow into roles gradually. There is no clear moment when one becomes responsible. Responsibility arrives quietly, disguised as habit. One day a task is simply expected, and that expectation remains. Elders remain part of the household until the end. Their work may change, becoming smaller, slower, but their presence does not fade. They hold memory not as stories carefully told, but as reactions, preferences, ways of doing things that others imitate without realizing why. Loss, when it comes, settles into the house, gently but firmly. The space someone occupied becomes noticeable. Objects they used are handled with more care for a time. Then, slowly, life reshapes itself around the absence. The household does not stop. It adapts. There is little separation between personal life and shared life. Thoughts are private, but days are communal. Joy is quiet. Grief is quieter still. Everything happens within the same walls, under the same roof, beside the same fire. As generations pass, the house remains a center point, even if rebuilt, even if altered, it holds the same function. It gathers people. It shelters routine. It keeps time without measuring it. Medieval families do not reflect on this structure. They do not compare it to other ways of living. It is simply how life is arranged. Togetherness is not a choice made daily. It is the condition of existence. And so the days continue, one folding into the next. Meals, work, rest, silence, sound, nothing dramatic, nothing urgent. Just the slow accumulation of ordinary moments. As night returns once more, the household settles again into itself. Bodies find their places. Breath slows. The fire dims. Outside, the village does the same. There is no ending here, only continuation. The family remains in motion even as it rests. Time moves forward quietly, carrying these lives along without asking them to notice. For now, everything is calm. The house is full, the night is gentle, and history, once again, waits patiently. The next days arrive quietly, as if they have been waiting nearby all along. Nothing announces the passage from one to another. Light shifts, shadows move across familiar walls. The household continues, steady and unremarkable, held together by habits so old they no longer feel chosen. In medieval family life, togetherness is constant but never discussed. People share space because there is no other way. The home remains a single living body, stretching and adjusting with each person inside it. Someone steps around a sleeping child without thinking. Someone hands over a tool without asking. These small acts pass unnoticed, yet they shape the day. The center of the home remains the hearth. It is not admired, it is relied upon. Heat, light, cooking, comfort, all return to this place. People sit near it when they are tired. They stand near it when they need to think. It listens without response. Conversations drift in and out. Words are exchanged when needed, then released. Silence is never uncomfortable. It is simply another state of being together. A mother hums softly while working. A grandfather clears his throat before speaking, then decides not to. No one presses him. Children move freely through this shared space. They learn the weight of objects, the rhythm of voices, the feel of time passing slowly. They do not ask many questions. Answers are already around them. The way hands move, the way bread is torn, the way adults pause before responding. Sleep happens when it happens. Some rest earlier, some later. Bodies listen to the day rather than to rules. When someone wakes in the night, they are not alone. The presence of others is felt even in darkness. That presence is calming. As weeks pass, the family experiences small changes. An injury that heals, a disagreement that fades, a tool that breaks and is replaced. These events do not interrupt the flow. They settle into it, becoming part of the pattern. The household is rarely quiet during the day, but the noise is soft. Footsteps, fabric brushing against wood, the gentle scrape of utensils. Voices rarely rise. When they do, they fall again quickly, absorbed by the walls. Outside pressures exist, but they enter the home slowly. News arrives by word of mouth, already worn down by repetition. A poor harvest. Somewhere distant. A tax demanded. A neighbor's trouble. These things are acknowledged, then set aside for what can be done immediately. The family focuses on what is near. Meals continue to mark the hours, not by time, but by hunger. Someone notices the pot is empty. Someone else begins to fill it again. Eating is unceremonious. Everyone knows their place. Not a sign, just known. Elders often sit near the edges of activity, watching. Their presence adds weight to the room, a quiet reminder of continuity. They remember when others were small. They remember winters that were harder. They do not speak of these things unless asked, and often not even then. Young adults exist between roles. They are both helpers and learners. They carry heavier loads, yet still receive guidance. Their future is already shaped by the household. Even if it has not been named, time in these families feels wide. Days are long, but not crowded. Moments stretch. Waiting is common. Waiting for bread to rise. Waiting for weather to change. Waiting for someone to return. Waiting is not seen as wasted time. It is simply time. Even disputes settle slowly. A sharp word lingers in the air, then drifts away. There is no space for long resentment. Proximity demands resolution, even if that resolution is silence. At dusk, the household pulls inward again. The light fades, work slows. People gather closer, not from instruction, but from instinct. The fire grows brighter against the darkening room. Shadows lengthen and merge. Stories surfaced in these hours, often half remembered. A tale about an ancestor, a rumor about a distant place, a memory that may or may not be accurate. Accuracy matters less than the sound of voices continuing. Children listen, then drift. Adults listen, then grow quiet. The day releases its hold. As night settles fully, the family prepares to rest once more. Places are found. Blankets are shared. Breathing aligns. The household becomes a single resting shape. There is comfort in this repetition. Comfort in knowing what comes next without needing to say it aloud. The medieval family moves through time. Together, slowly, quietly, without ever naming the closeness that holds them. Morning returns again, not as an event, but as a continuation. The light slips back into the room as if it never truly left. The household recognizes the change without remark. Eyes open, bodies shift. Someone reaches for a familiar object and finds it where it always is. The family moves through the early hours with an ease shaped by repetition. There is no discussion about what must be done first. Hands begin working almost on their own. The fire is tended, water is carried, animals are checked. Each task begins when someone notices it needs. Living together in such closeness creates a quiet awareness of others. People sense moods without words. A slower step, a longer pause, a sigh that lingers. These things are noticed and adjusted around. Someone else takes on a heavier task. Someone is left alone without explanation. Children continue to absorb the household through observation. They learn patience by waiting. They learn effort by copying. They learn belonging simply by being included in everything, even when they do not fully understand it. No one sets aside time to teach them how to be part of the family. It happens naturally. Meals arrive again, shaped by what is available. Sometimes the pot is fuller, sometimes thinner. No one comments much. Hunger is familiar. Satisfaction is quiet. Eating together remains one of the few moments when everyone pauses at once, even if only briefly. Work stretches through the day in a steady line. The rhythm is slow but persistent. When the body tires, it rests. When it recovers, it resumes. There is no sense of pushing past limits. The family depends on each member remaining able, so exhaustion is treated with respect. Inside the home, space is shared constantly. People step around one another, adjust their positions, shift objects slightly to make room. These movements are small and continuous, like water finding paths around stones. No one asks permission. No one complains. The presence of elders brings a different pace into the household. Their movements are slower, their speech measured. They pause often, sometimes forgetting what they intended to do. The family accommodates this without irritation. Time stretches. To meet them, memory lives in these older bodies, not as clear stories, but as instincts. They reach for the right tool. They know when weather is changing. They remember where things belong, even if they forget names. Others trust this knowledge, without questioning it. When illness appears, it changes the rhythm, but not the structure. Someone remains indoors. Someone else takes over their work. The fire is kept warmer. Food is brought closer. Concern is shown through action rather than words. Recovery, when it comes, is accepted quietly. The household exists within a larger network of families nearby. Neighbors are known. Help is exchanged. News arrives slowly, softened by distance and time. But the center remains the home. Everything returns to it eventually. Children play within sight of adults. Their games mimic work, turning tools into toys, tasks into stories. Laughter appears briefly, then fades. Play blends back into work without clear boundaries. As afternoon deepens, light changes again. Shadows stretch across the floor. Activity slows slightly. People begin to feel the weight of the day without naming it. Movements become more deliberate. Conflicts sometimes surface in these hours. Fatigue makes patience thin. A word is sharper than intended. A gesture is misunderstood. The tension hangs briefly, then dissolves as someone turns away, focusing on a task. Resolution comes through proximity, not discussion. Evening gathers the family inward once more. The fire's refreshed. The outside world grows dim. The household tightens, forming a smaller circle. Everyone is aware of everyone else, even without looking. Stories return, if only fragments. Someone recalls a winter long ago. Someone mentions a birth, a loss, a journey. Details blur. What remains is the feeling of continuity, of having been here before. Children lean against adults. Adults rest against walls. Elders sit quietly, eyes half closed, listening without effort. The day loosens its hold. As night settles, the family prepares to rest again. The routine is so familiar, it requires no thought. Places are found, bodies arrange themselves. The room fills with slow, even breathing. There is comfort in this shared ending to the day. Comfort in knowing that rest is communal, just as work was. The medieval family moves together into the quiet hours, held by habit, closeness, and the gentle passing of time. The night accepts them without question, and the household becomes still. Once more, the night stretches out again, wide and unmeasured. Darkness settles into the corners of the room, familiar and unthreatening. The household rests within it, breathing in uneven rhythms that slowly begin to match. Someone murmurs in sleep. Someone shifts and then stills. These movements pass without meaning, absorbed by the quiet. Hours move forward without being counted. Outside, the village remains present but distant. A collection of other households resting in much the same way. Inside, the family remains together even in unconsciousness. Bodies arranged by habit rather than plan. Toward morning, the air cools slightly. The fire glows faintly, patient and reliable. A child wakes briefly, unsure why. then returns to sleep. After sensing the presence of others nearby, safety does not need to be explained. It is felt. When light begins to return, it does so gently, touching familiar surfaces. The room does not change, but it becomes visible again. Someone wakes and stays still for a while, listening. Another follows. The day forms itself quietly. In medieval family life, beginnings and endings blur together. One day is not sharply different from the next. The household continues, carrying its people forward through time without asking them to notice. Change happens slowly, almost invisible. As people rise, they do so without ceremony. No one announces the start of the day. Work resumes where it left off. A task unfinished yesterday waits patiently. Tools are picked up. Movements repeat. The family remains close, physically and emotionally, though neither closeness nor emotion is discussed. Care is shown through action, through shared labor, through presence. Someone notices another is tired and steps in without comment. Someone notices hunger and prepares food. Children grow older within this rhythm, almost without realizing it. Their voices deepen. Their movements become more confident. One day they are trusted with a task that once felt too heavy. No one marks the moment. It simply happens. Elders continue to shape the household through their presence. Even in stillness, they contribute. Their reactions guide others. Their approval, when given, is quiet but meaningful. Their disapproval, often unspoken, is felt just as clearly. Time passes in this way, carried by repetition. Weeks become months. Months become years. The household changes shape as people arrive and depart, yet its core remains steady. The fire stays in the same place. The walls hold the same echoes. Loss arrives eventually, as it always does. When it does, it is absorbed into the household slowly. Grief is shared, not dramatized. The space someone leaves behind is felt in small ways. A missing voice, an unused place. These absences soften with time. Life continues because it must, and because it knows how. The family does not question this. Work resumes. Meals are prepared. Children laugh again. The household reshapes itself around what remains. Even joy is quiet here. A good harvest. A healthy birth. A reunion. These moments are acknowledged, then folded gently into daily life. Celebration is brief. Routine is constant. As another evening arrives, the household gathers inward. Again, the fire is tended. Shadows stretch. Voices lower. The day releases its hold slowly, as it always does. People settle into rest with the same ease they began the day. Places are found. Blankets are shared. Breathing slows. The room fills with a familiar stillness. There is no sense of conclusion, only continuation. The medieval family remains together, carried forward by habit, necessity, and quiet care. Time passes through them, not over them. The house rests, the people rest, and the slow, ordinary rhythm of life continues, unremarkable and steady, waiting calmly for the next day to arrive. Morning does not feel new anymore. It feels familiar, like a path worn smooth by many feet. The household wakes into it without surprise. Light enters at a slightly different angle now. The season has shifted a little, though no one has marked the exact day it happened. The air carries a new weight. Cooler, perhaps, or just different enough to be noticed and then accepted. The family continues to live close, close enough that small changes ripple outward. Someone coughs more than usual. Someone moves more slowly. Someone laughs a little more easily than before. These things are noticed in passing, not examined. Life adjusts quietly. Clothing is shared, repaired, passed along. A child grows, and a garment moves to another body. Fabric is valued not for how it looks, but for how long it lasts. Hands mend patiently. Needles move in small, careful arcs. The act of repair becomes a kind of rest, a moment when the body slows while the hands continue. Inside the home, space is used again and again for different purposes. Where food was prepared earlier, cloth is now laid out. Where someone slept at night, someone sits to work during the day. The room reshapes itself continuously without ever truly changing. Everything knows where it belongs, even when it is moved. Voices drift through the space, sometimes overlapping, sometimes leaving long gaps. Conversation does not need to be constant. Silence holds just as much meaning. When someone speaks, others listen without urgency. Words are not rushed. There is time. Children are still nearby, always nearby. They grow accustomed to the sounds of adult life, the scrape of tools, the murmur of discussion, the sighs that come at the end of effort. These sounds become the background of their understanding of the world. Safety is not explained. It is experienced as the day unfolds, tasks repeat. Grain is ground, water is carried, wood is split. Each action follows another, not because it must, but because it always has. The body remembers what comes next, even when the mind wanders. The family depends on this memory. When one person falters, another steps in, already knowing what needs to be done. There is little need for instruction. Roles overlap. Skills are shared. Everyone knows a little of everything, enough to keep the household moving. Weather presses gently against the walls. Rain, when it comes, changes the sound of the world. The roof listens. Drops settle into a steady rhythm. The family draws closer. Together, not from fear, but from habit. Work continues indoors. The fire becomes more important. During these hours, stories sometimes surface without intention. Someone recalls a season long past. Someone mentions a place they once saw. Though details are loose, softened by time. Accuracy does not matter. The sound of remembering is enough. Elders often sit quietly during these moments, their presence anchoring the room. They do not need to speak often. When they do, the room adjusts to hear them. Their words are slower, chosen carefully, then released. No one interrupts. Children listen, sometimes half aware, sometimes fully absorbed. They do not know which details will stay with them. Years later, they will remember fragments without knowing why. A phrase, a gesture, a way of holding. Silence. The family's sense of time continues to stretch. There is patience built into the day. Waiting is expected. Bread rises slowly. Cloth dries when it dries. People return when they return. There is no benefit in rushing what cannot be hurried. Disagreements still appear, as they always do when people live closely. They rise quietly, often over small things. A misplaced object, a misunderstood task. Voices tighten, then loosen again. Resolution arrives through proximity, through the simple fact of continuing to share space. The household is shaped by necessity, but also by familiarity. People know one another's habits intimately. They know who prefers silence in the morning, who works better near the fire, who needs time alone, even if that time is brief and imperfect. As afternoon fades, the light shifts again. Shadows lengthen, movements slow. The family begins to gather inward without planning to. Tools are set aside. Work is left where it stands. Evening brings the familiar pull toward rest. The fire is tended once more. The room grows smaller, more contained. Outside sounds soften. Inside sounds do the same. Someone hums without realizing it. Someone listens with eyes half closed. A child leans against a warm body and drifts toward sleep. The day loosens its grip gradually. There is comfort in this shared unwinding, comfort in knowing that nothing more is required. The household settles into itself, held together by routine, by presence, by the quiet certainty of not facing the hours alone. Night approaches again, steady and predictable, and the family, as always, is ready to meet it together. The night passes gently, without ceremony. Darkness feels familiar now, like a well-known companion that arrives at the same pace each evening. The household rests inside it, layered in breath and warmth. Sleep comes unevenly, then settles, then lifts again in small waves. No one notices these changes. They belong to the body, not to thought. When morning returns, it does so quietly, almost carefully, as if not to disturb the shape of the room. Light slides along the wall. The fire waits to be stirred. The house recognizes itself again, piece by piece. Someone opens their eyes and remains still for a while, listening to the presence of others before moving. Living together means that waking is never lonely. Even before words, even before movement, the family is already there. The awareness of shared space brings a subtle calm. The day begins without expectation. Hands reach for familiar tasks. Water is fetched. Ashes are cleared. The fire answers with warmth when asked. The routine has been repeated so many times that it no longer feels like effort. It feels like continuation. Children wake into sound and movement. They watch before they act. They follow before they lead. The household offers them a steady background, against which they grow. There is little pressure to hurry. Growth happens gradually, woven into daily repetition. Inside the home, people pass each other often, adjusting without thought. A shoulder turns. A step pauses. Objects are handed from one set of hands to another. These exchanges are quiet, efficient, almost invisible. Togetherness shows itself through these small accommodations. As the day progresses, work spreads out. Across the household, some tasks pull people outside, others keep them near the fire. The family stretches and contracts throughout the hours, always returning to the center. Even when separated, they remain connected by expectation. Everyone knows where others are likely to be. Conversation drifts through the room like smoke. It rises, fades, then returns in a different shape. Words are chosen simply. There is no need to impress. Speaking is meant to be understood, not admired. Elders remain present throughout the day, sometimes active, sometimes still. Their movements are slower, but their awareness is sharp. They notice changes in weather, in mood, in rhythm. They offer guidance indirectly, through example, through habit, through quiet correction. Children respond to this presence instinctively. They adjust their behavior without being told. They sense when to be quiet. They sense when help is needed. They sense when play can fill the space without disruption. Meals arrive again, marking another turning of the day. Food is prepared slowly. Ingredients are familiar. The act of cooking is shared, with hands working side by side. Eating follows, unhurried. The family gathers, not to talk, but to be together while nourishment happens. Afterward, work resumes. With little pause, the day does not feel divided into sections. It flows continuously, each moment blending into the next. Fatigue arrives gradually. It is noticed and respected. When someone slows, the household adjusts. Space inside the home feels flexible. The same corner holds different purposes across the hours. What matters is not where something happens, but that it happens within reach of others. Proximity remains constant. Disagreements appear occasionally, often without warning. They rarely grow large. Living together leaves little room for distance, and distance is what conflict needs to grow. Here, it fades quickly. Smoothed by routine and necessity, the family's awareness extends beyond the walls, but only gently. Sounds from outside enter and leave. A voice passing, an animal moving. These reminders of the wider world are acknowledged, then released. Attention returns inward. As afternoon deepens, light becomes softer. The household senses the shift without looking at the sky. Movements become more deliberate. Tasks are finished or set aside. There is no urgency to complete everything. Tomorrow is assumed that children begin to grow quieter, not from instruction, but from tiredness. They lean against adults. They sit still for longer moments. The household responds by slowing further, matching their pace. Evening gathers the family again. Around the fire, shadows stretch. The room feels smaller, more contained. Voices lower naturally. Someone begins a story, not because it is time for one, but because it feels right. The story wanders, pauses, resumes, then drifts away unfinished. Elders listen, with eyes half closed. Adults rest their bodies while remaining alert. Children slide gently into sleep, still surrounded by sound and warmth. No one moves them unless needed. Sleep is allowed to arrive where it finds them. As the fire settles, the household prepares for rest. There is no clear boundary between being awake and sleeping. Bodies find places. Blankets are adjusted. Breathing slows. The day releases its hold without resistance. The family remains together, resting in shared space, wrapped in familiarity. Time continues forward, quietly, without asking to be noticed. Night takes the house once more, and the household accepts it easily, as it always does. The night deepens, then softens again, as if even darkness knows when to ease its hold. The household rests within it, layered with breath, warmth, and the quiet assurance of familiarity. Sleep moves gently from one person to another. Someone dreams and stirs. Someone else turns toward the warmth of the fire without waking. These small motions belong to the night and are not carried into morning. Hours pass without shape. Outside, the village remains still, each home holding its own cluster of lives, each hearth glowing faintly. Inside, the family remains together even in stillness, bodies arranged by habit and memory. When light finally begins to return, it does so slowly, touching the edges of the room. Shapes emerge again. The beam above, the hearthstones, the familiar curve of shoulders and blankets. Someone opens their eyes and waits, listening to the room before moving. The day forms itself quietly. There is no beginning point that can be named. One person sits up, another follows. The fire is stirred. Warmth responds, as it always does. The household resumes its gentle motion. Living together means that no one ever truly starts alone. The presence of others is felt even before words are spoken. This shared beginning steadies the day before it fully arrives. Tasks return without needing to be remembered. Hands reach for tools. Feet move toward familiar paths. Work resumes not with energy, but with calm persistence. The household settles back into its rhythm. Children wake gradually, some already alert, others slow to rise. They move among adults easily, unafraid of interruption. Their place in the household is unquestioned. They belong simply because they are there. Elders wake more slowly, stretching time around them. Their movements are careful, their breathing measured. The family adjusts without comment, allowing the pace to soften where needed. The home continues to change shape throughout the hours. The same space holds work, rest, conversation, silence. Nothing is fixed except the presence of others. That presence anchors everything else. As the day moves forward, small moments accumulate. A shared glance, a hand resting briefly on a shoulder, a task completed together without discussion. These moments pass unnoticed, yet they form the quiet structure of family life. Outside, the weather presses gently against the walls. Wind moves along the roof. Light shifts again. The household notices these changes without reacting strongly. Adaptation happens naturally. Meals return, as they always do, shaped by hunger rather than schedule. Food is prepared, shared, eaten, then released. No ceremony marks the act. It is enough that everyone is fed. Work continues, then slows. Fatigue arrives gradually. It is met with rest, not resistance. Someone sits, someone else takes over. The household flows around tiredness as easily as it flows around obstacles. As evening approaches once more, the family begins to draw inward. This movement is instinctive, shaped by years of repetition. Tools are set aside, voices soften. The fire becomes the center again. Children settle close to adults. Elders sit quietly, watching shadows lengthen along the walls. Someone hums softly, not for anyone in particular. The sound drifts, then fades. Stories surface briefly, then dissolve. A memory half told, a thought left unfinished. No one presses for an ending. Completion is not required. The day loosens its hold gently. Bodies relax, eyes close. Sleep returns without effort. The household prepares for rest in the same shared way it prepared for work. There is no conclusion here, no turning point to be marked. Life continues in this steady manner, carried by habit, closeness, and quiet care. The medieval family remains together, moving through time slowly, almost without noticing. The house settles, the fire dims, breathing aligns once more. And the night, familiar and patient, takes the household again, holding it quietly until morning chooses to return. The days continue to layer themselves gently, one over another, like thin cloth folded without urgency. By now, the rhythm of the household feels settled, almost weightless in its familiarity. Morning arrives again, carrying a slightly different air, perhaps cooler, perhaps only imagined. The family notices, then moves on. Living together over long stretches of time creates a shared awareness that goes beyond words. People sense when something is out of place, a missing sound, a pause that lasts a little longer than usual. These things are felt more than understood. The household adjusts quietly. The home itself bears these adjustments. A stool is moved closer to the fire. A sleeping place shifts slightly to make room. Objects migrate slowly across the room over weeks and months, guided by need rather than plan. Nothing is ever quite permanent, yet everything feels stable. Children continue to grow within this environment, their understanding shaped by repetition. They learn what mornings sound like, what evenings feel like, what silence means. They learn when to speak and when not to, not through instruction, but through observation. The household teaches without trying to teach. Adults carry the weight of continuity. Their days are filled with work that rarely changes, yet never feels exactly the same. Each repetition holds small differences. A tool wears down, a movement becomes smoother. A task takes less effort than it once did. Time leaves its marks gently. Elders remain central, even when they do very little. Their presence alone shapes the pace of the household. People slow slightly around them. Voices soften. Movements become more deliberate. Respect is not announced. It is practiced. The fire continues to mark the center of life inside the home. It gathers people without asking. When someone needs warmth, they move toward it. When someone needs to think, they sit near it. When someone needs rest, they lie where its heat still reaches. The fire listens without comment. As the day moves forward, work unfolds in its usual way. Some tasks pull family members outside. Others remain close to the hearth. The household stretches, then gathers again like a familiar breath. Separation is temporary, return is assumed. Weather plays its quiet role. A cloudy day slows movements slightly. A bright one lifts them. Rain changes the sound of everything, softening edges, drawing attention inward. The family adapts without discussion. Guided by long familiarity with these patterns, meals continue to arrive and pass. Food is prepared with care, not ceremony. Hands work together. Ingredients are simple. The act of eating is shared, but not emphasized. Hunger is met. Satisfaction follows quietly. Conversation appears and fades throughout the day. Some topics return again and again, reshaped slightly each time. Others pass through once and are not mentioned again. No one feels the need to fill every silence. Quiet is allowed to remain quiet. Children drift between activity and stillness. They play briefly, then watch. They ask a question, then forget it. Their presence is constant, yet never demanding. They are part of everything, even when not fully aware of it. Disagreements still surface from time to time. Living closely makes this unavoidable, but they rarely last. Proximity softens sharp edges. Routine absorbs tension. By evening, most conflicts have dissolved into tiredness. As light begins to fade again, the household senses it without looking. Work slows. Tools are set aside where they are. There is no anxiety about unfinished tasks. Tomorrow is expected, and it will accept what remains. The family gathers inward once more. The fire is refreshed. Shadows stretch along the walls. Voices lower naturally. The room feels smaller, more contained, as if drawing itself around her. People inside. Someone begins to speak, then stops. Someone else listens anyway. A child leans against a familiar body and grows still. Elders sit quietly, eyes half closed, present without effort. The day releases its hold slowly. There is no clear moment when it ends. Wakefulness fades into rest, thought into quiet. The household settles, carried by repetition and shared space. Night arrives again, as it always does, steady and predictable. And the family, bound together by habit and closeness, moves into it without resistance, ready to rest side by side once more. The night stretches on without interruption. Darkness feels settled now, like something that belongs to the house as much as the walls do. The household rests within it, bodies arranged by habit, by years of knowing where warmth lingers longest and where draughts sometimes pass. Breathing rises and falls unevenly at first, then gradually finds a shared rhythm. Someone wakes briefly and listens. The fire murmurs softly. The sound is enough. Sleep returns without effort. These small awakenings leave no trace by morning. When light returns, it does so quietly, slipping into the room and resting on familiar surfaces. The household senses it before anyone opens their eyes. The day begins without urgency, without expectation. People rise one by one. Movements are slow, careful, shaped by sleep that still clings to the body. The fire is stirred. Warmth answers in its own time. The house wakes fully. Living together means that even the earliest moments are shared. Before words are spoken, before tasks begin, the presence of others is felt. The shared beginning steadies the day. Work resumes naturally. Hands reach for what they know. A tool is lifted. Water is fetched. Something is repaired that broke yesterday or long before. There is no clear distinction between starting and continuing. Everything feels like continuation. Children wake into activity and sound. They move among adults easily, stepping around tools and feet with instinctive care. They watch before they act, absorbing the flow of the household without trying to control it. Elders wake more slowly. Their movements shape the pace around them. When they pause, others pause too, even if only slightly. Time bends gently in their presence. Inside the home, space continues to serve many purposes. A corner that held sleep now holds work. A surface that held food now holds cloth or tools. Nothing is fixed except the rhythm of use. The room adapts constantly without changing its nature. Voices appear and disappear. Conversation drifts through the space without demanding attention. Words are spoken when needed, then allowed to fade. Silence settles easily between exchanges. As the hours pass, the household stretches outward again. Some members step outside, drawn by tasks that wait beyond the walls. Others remain near the fire, keeping the center intact. Separation never feels complete. Return is always expected. Weather presses softly against the day. A shift in wind, a change in light. These are noticed and folded into movement without comment. The family adjusts instinctively. Meals arrive again, shaped by hunger rather than time. Food is prepared with the same steady care as always. Eating brings the household together briefly, anchoring the day before it flows onward again. Fatigue arrives quietly. It shows itself in slower movements, longer pauses. The household responds without discussion. Someone else takes over. Someone rests. Balance is restored. Conflicts, when they appear, are small and quickly softened. A misunderstanding, a misplaced object. Voices tighten, then relax. Living so close leaves little room for distance. Resolution comes through presence rather than words. As afternoon deepens, light grows softer, shadows lengthen. The household senses the approach of evening without looking. Tasks slow naturally. Some are finished. Others are left where they are. Our children grow quieter. They sit closer to adults. Their play becomes stillness without instruction. The household follows their pace, easing into the slower rhythm of the coming night. Evening gathers everyone inward again. The fire becomes central once more. Shadows move along the walls. The room feels contained, secure. Voices lower. Someone hums briefly, then stops. Elders sit quietly, listening without effort. Adults rest their bodies while remaining present. Children drift toward sleep where they sit, held by warmth and sound. The day loosens its grip gradually. Wakefulness softens. Thought becomes indistinct. The household prepares for rest without ceremony. There is no clear ending, only the gentle slide from one state into another. The family remains together, carried forward by routine and closeness. Night arrives again, steady and familiar. The house settles, breathing aligns, and the medieval family rests once more, wrapped in shared space and unspoken understanding. The night deepens again, not abruptly, but with the same steady patience it always shows. Darkness settles into the house, as if it has learnt the shape of every corner. The household rests within it, familiar with this state, untroubled by it. Sleep arrives in layers, light at first, then heavier, then light again. Someone shifts in the night, adjusting to a cooler draft. Another reaches out in sleep and finds a familiar presence nearby. These gestures happen without waking thought. The body remembers what brings comfort. Hours move forward quietly. Outside, the village remains still, its many households resting in much the same way. Inside, the family remains together, held in place by shared space and long habit. Toward morning, the fire's glow softens further, still present, still reliable. The air cools slightly, Breath rises and falls. The house listens. Light returns. Slowly, touching the edges of things rather than announcing itself. The beam overhead becomes visible again. The floor, the familiar shapes of resting bodies. Someone wakes and stays still, letting the room return around them. The day gathers itself gently. There is no rush to rise, no urgency to begin. The household waits until movement feels natural. Then someone sits up. Another follows. The fire is stirred, and warmth answers, as it always does. Life continues in this way, steady and unremarkable. The family resumes its quiet rhythm, carrying forward all the small adjustments made over time. Nothing feels finished. Nothing feels new. It is simply ongoing. Children wake into sound and presence, already surrounded. Elders wake more slowly, drawing time outward around them. Adults move carefully between tasks, already aware of what the day will likely hold. The home adapts. Again, as it always does. Space reshapes itself. Objects are moved slightly. The rhythm returns without needing to be recalled. There is comfort in this repetition. Comfort in knowing what comes next without needing to say it. The medieval family lives within this steady flow, not thinking of it as history, not imagining an end. The house remains full. The day unfolds quietly. And time continues forward, gently carrying everyone along together. Morning returns again, and by now it feels less like an arrival and more like a soft rearranging of the room. Light settles where it usually does. Shadows retreat in familiar directions. The household wakes into a shape it already knows. Nothing needs to be confirmed. Everyone understands where they are. The family continues to live within this closeness, a closeness that no longer draws attention to itself. It is simply the condition of the day. People rise when they are ready. Some sit quietly for a while, letting the warmth of the fire reach them before moving. Others begin small tasks almost immediately, hands finding work before thoughts fully form. The home carries the marks of many seasons now. Wood smoothed by repeated touch, stone darkened by smoke, fabric worn thin, then reinforced. These marks are not noticed often. They are part of the background, like the sound of breathing. They remind the household, without words, that time has been passing all along. Children move through the space with confidence. They know where not to step. They know which objects are fragile and which can be handled freely. They know who prefers quiet in the morning and who does not mind being interrupted. This knowledge has not been taught. It has been gathered slowly through daily presence. Adults work steadily, their movements shaped by long habit. There is no sense of beginning from nothing each day. Work resumes where it left off, as if it had only been paused briefly overnight. A repair continues. A task waits patiently. The day opens itself to what is already there. Elders remain close, even when they do little. Their presence gives the room a certain gravity. People move more carefully around them, not out of fear, but out of familiarity. They know the value of this presence. They know it will not always be there. The fire continues to hold the center. Its warmth draws people near without effort. It listens to conversations, to silences, to the soft sounds of work. It marks the passing of the day more reliably than any measure. When it burns lower, evening is near. When it brightens again, the household gathers. As hours pass, The family shifts gently between togetherness and separation. Some step outside for work that cannot be done indoors. Others remain inside, keeping the household's rhythm intact. Even when apart, there is an awareness of return. The home is not left behind. It waits, weather presses in quietly. A chill in the air changes how close people sit. A warm day opens the door longer. Rain alters the sound of the world, drawing attention inward. These changes are noticed, then absorbed. The family adjusts without discussion. Meals arrive and pass, as they always do. Food is prepared with care shaped by necessity. Nothing is wasted. Nothing is excessive. Eating together remains a pause in the day, a moment when everyone is briefly still in the same place. Conversation may appear, or it may not. Both are acceptable. Children learn patience here, not as a lesson, but as a condition. They wait for bread to be ready. They wait for adults to finish tasks. They wait for weather to change. Waiting becomes part of life, not something to be endured, but something to inhabit. Inside the home, sound is constant but gentle. Footsteps, tools, low voices, fabric shifting. These sounds blend together into a steady presence that fills the room. Silence appears occasionally, but it does not feel empty. It feels held. Disagreements surface now and then, as they must. Living together so closely leaves little room for avoidance. Tension rises briefly, then settles. Fatigue often does the work of resolution. By evening, most sharp edges have softened as afternoon fades, light changes again. The household senses it without looking. Movements slow. Tasks are completed or left unfinished without concern. There is no pressure to close the day neatly. Tomorrow exists, and it will accept what remains. The family begins to draw inward. This happens gradually, almost unconsciously. People sit closer, voices lower. The fire becomes brighter against the dimming room. Shadows stretch and merge. Children grow quiet. Some drift into sleep where they sit. Others fight it briefly, then give in. Adults adjust blankets without comment. Elders watch the room with half-closed eyes, present without effort. The day loosens its hold slowly. Wakefulness fades into rest without a clear boundary. Thoughts become less distinct. The household settles into itself, carried by routine and shared space. Night arrives again, steady and expected. The family meets it together, as it always has. Nothing dramatic marks the moment. The house simply grows quieter, warmer, more contained, and within this quiet, life continues its slow, ordinary movement, holding the family together without ever needing to say why. The night moves on without interruption, stretching itself gently. Across the hours, darkness settles fully now, not pressing, not heavy, simply present. The household rests inside it, bodies arranged in the familiar way that has formed over many nights. Breathing drifts in and out of alignment, then slowly settles again. The house listens. Someone wakes briefly and turns, feeling for warmth, for the reassuring closeness of another body nearby. Finding it, they relax again. Sleep returns without resistance. These moments leave no trace when morning comes. When light begins to return, it does not hurry. It seeps softly into the room, touching edges and corners first. The shape of the house reappears gradually. The beam overhead, the hearthstones, the quiet outlines of resting forms. The household senses the change before anyone moves. One person opens their eyes and remains still, letting the day arrive around them. Another stirs. A third sighs softly. There is no signal that tells everyone to rise. The morning gathers itself patiently. Living together makes even waking a shared act. Before words, before tasks, the presence of others is felt. This presence steadies the body, grounds the day before it begins. Movement starts slowly. Someone sits up. Someone else follows. The fire is stirred from its low glow, and warmth answers in time. The house shifts from rest into motion without crossing a clear boundary. Children wake into sound and activity, surrounded on all sides. They move carefully at first, then more freely as sleep loosens its hold. They know where they are. They know who is near. This knowledge brings calm. Elders wake more slowly, stretching time around them. Their pace shapes the space. Others adjust instinctively, slowing slightly, moving with more care. No one remarks on this. It is simply how the household breathes. Work resumes where it left off. Hands reach for familiar tools. Tasks wait without impatience. There is no sense of beginning anew. The day feels like a continuation of many others, different only in small details. Inside the home, space reshapes itself again. A place that held sleep now holds work. Objects are moved, then moved again. The room adapts endlessly, yet remains the same at its core. Everything happens within reach of others. Voices drift in and out. A short exchange, a longer pause. Silence settles comfortably between words. No one feels the need to fill it. Being together does not require constant sound. As the hours pass, the household stretches outward. Some family members step outside, drawn by tasks that wait beyond the walls. Others remain near the fire, keeping the center alive. Even in separation, there is an awareness of return. The home remains present in thought. Weather makes itself known gently. A shift in wind, a change in light. These things alter movement slightly, guiding where people sit or stand. The family adjusts without discussion, guided by long familiarity. Meals arrive again, shaped by hunger rather than time. Food is prepared with steady hands. Eating gathers the household briefly, anchoring the day before it flows onward. Conversation may surface, or it may not. Both feel natural. Fatigue arrives quietly, not as a problem to solve, but as a signal to slow. Movements grow heavier, pauses lengthen. The household responds by redistributing effort. Someone rests. Someone else continues. Children sense this change and grow quieter. Their play becomes stillness. They sit closer to adults. Their energy settles without instruction. The household follows their pace, easing toward the slower hours. As afternoon deepens, light softens. Shadows stretch across the floor. Tasks are finished or left unfinished without concern. There is no urgency to close the day neatly. Tomorrow is already assumed. Evening draws the family inward once more. The fire becomes central again. People gather near it without planning to. Voices lower. Movements slow. The room feels contained, held. Elders sit quietly, watching the familiar shapes of the household. Adults rest their bodies, while remaining present. Children drift toward sleep, held by warmth and sound. The day loosens its grip gently. Wakefulness fades. Thought softens. The household prepares for rest without ceremony. Carried by repetition and closeness, night arrives again, steady and familiar. The house settles. Breathing aligns, and the medieval family rests once more together. Within the quiet continuity of shared life, the night holds the house again, gently, without effort. Darkness settles into familiar places, resting where it always does. The household lies within it, bodies arranged by memory rather than choice. Warmth lingers where people are closest. Cool air drifts along the edges. Nothing feels uncertain. Sleep moves quietly through the room. Some sink deeply into it. Others hover closer to waking, drifting in and out. A soft sound escapes someone's breath. Another turns slightly, then becomes still again. These small motions belong to the night and are not carried forward. Hours pass without shape. Outside, the village remains quiet, each household resting within its own circle of walls and firelight. Inside, the family remains together, even in stillness. Presence does not disappear when eyes are closed. Toward morning, the fire's glow softens further, but does not fade entirely. It remains patient, waiting to be stirred. The air cools just enough to be noticed in sleep. Someone adjusts a blanket without waking fully. Comfort is restored. Light begins its slow return, touching the room carefully. Shapes reappear without urgency. The beam overhead, the floor, the familiar outline of bodies at rest. Someone opens their eyes and waits, letting the house come back into focus. The day gathers itself quietly. No one rushes to meet it. Movement begins when it feels natural. Someone sits up, another follows. The fire is stirred, and warmth answers in its own time. Life continues without needing to be named. The family resumes its gentle rhythm, carrying forward all the small changes that have accumulated over time. Nothing feels finished. Nothing feels new. It is simply ongoing. Children wake into sound and presence, already surrounded. Elders wake more slowly, drawing time outward around them. Adults move between tasks with practiced ease, already aware of what the day will likely hold. The home reshapes itself once more. Sleeping places become working spaces. Objects are moved slightly. The rhythm returns without being recalled. Everything happens within shared space, within reach of one another. There is comfort in this continuity. Comfort in knowing what comes next without speaking it aloud. The medieval family lives inside this steady flow, not aware of how long it has lasted, not imagining when it might end. The house remains full. The morning unfolds quietly, and time continues forward, gently carrying everyone along together without asking to be noticed.